Pegasus Podcast, presented by Night Sports Now. UCF news, views, and a few hot takes. Now, here are your hosts, Bailey Go Knights Adams and Christian Charge On Simmons.
Welcome into episode 293. Be sure you're following us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at @ByCASimmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. You can also email us at PegasusPodcast@ksn@gmail.com. Christian, I don't have to ask how you are. We will get to our normal stuff, the UCF Kansas recap a little bit more, and then UCF Cincinnati preview. But you're wearing a Knots hat. I'm wearing a Citronaut hat, wearing 2023 Space uniform. 2025 Space uniforms dropped just about an hour and a half ago. And take it away.
Well, first off, happy Space Game uniform reveal day to you, Bailey. This is one of the most important days that we can have as a society, and it's always very exciting. It's funny how they've been doing this since I was 20. My 20s have been the decade of space because it was 2017, and this was the 9th one, which is crazy to think about. And they always drop at 3/21 for 3/21. Coincidentally, also my birthday, because that's how much I care about the space uniforms. And not my birthday today. 3/21 is my birthday, but it's fine. You probably understood that anyway. Random person. Yeah. But by like 2:50, I was just pacing my apartment. Like I felt real butterflies in my stomach. Like I need to see these freaking uniforms. And some have said that I am prone to hyperbole on my feelings on UCF's uniforms. And I think those people are cowards. But I wasn't talking about Trace when I said he was a coward, but Trace can be a little mean to me about my uniform takes. But I always reserve final and complete judgment until we see them on the field. But I think these are in contention to be my favorite UCF Space uniforms ever. So if you're watching audio, you've probably seen them. If you're watching video, we got a photo up of them. So we're doing blackout uniforms this year. The theme this year is hyperspace. Thanks to honoring the Hyperspace Center that UCF has opened in partnership with the Air Force, working on hypersonic travel, including the potential to potentially go up to Mach 17. If you're traveling at Mach 17, you'd get from New York to London in 15 minutes, so fairly fast. And that apparently opened like last year. This is fairly new, but these are, good Lord, man. Blackouts are always going to look good. I think the big jump away detail on these uniforms is the freaking numbers, man. I think that these numbers, which if you haven't seen them yet, it's like it is literally a digital photo almost, basically the numbers of hyperspace travel, of that motion blur. It's basically motion blur numbers of that effect you get as the stars are streaming by. If you've ever seen Star Wars, it's like every time they go to hyperspace in Star Wars, basically. And this is in the freaking numbers with the reflective trim. I think this is the most, that detail alone, especially with how big the numbers are on these uniforms, that's the most shock factor detail we've gotten on the space uniform since the moon helmet, right? Like I can't think of another detail that like, oh my Lord, when you see it. I
think, probably. And I'm glad you brought up the Star Wars thing, because when I watched the initial release video, the first thing I thought of when like they got to the actual uniform and stuff, like they kind of did a jump to hyperspace, and I was like, oh my God, Star Wars. And I love that. So I mean the numbers are, I've never seen, it's every year where we look at something, we're like, we've never seen anything like this. And I don't know how they continue to conceptualize all this stuff so well. But that's the good, like the numbers look good. And you can see in this photo here, if you're watching obviously on YouTube, there's the part of the shoulders that are also, similar, or the same kind of hyperspace theme, and it carries throughout the uniform. I mean, it looks good. I will, and every year, obviously, like they do a different kind of variation of it, but like the colors that they use for all of these will always do something to me.
It just hits.
Like I really like the blue and the black together.
But what's cool is there's nothing like, this isn't just straight up like, oh, this is Canaveral blue with black. I mean, this is a whole lot of different blues and whites going on here with the numbers and all the different patterns going there. The thing I want to say about the numbers before we get too far away from it is I know that some fans sort of think the uniforms are just like a sandbox, like UCF just like hops in, Photoshop and makes a uniform and then go, all right, make that a real thing. I don't understand or know how they got Nike or whoever to agree to make these numbers, because I have not seen anything like this on a college football uniform. I have not ever seen, I can't recall a college football team having a literal, what looks like essentially a photo design like this, like a digital photo design within the numbers of a uniform. I can't imagine that was easy to pull off. So I don't even know how they got them to agree on that. But these,
You and I on
smoked
Saturday.
every alternate uniform we've seen so far this season by a mile. I mean, good Lord, man.
You and I on Saturday were talking about the 2017 War on I-4 helmets with the player pictures inside the decal, and we're like, man, how do they even think of this? Like, how can they even do this? Like, it doesn't even it doesn't really make sense. Like, it's just, I don't understand any of the technology or the how they do behind this. And then 3 days later they do this with the numbers. I'm like, okay, well we'll copy and paste those thoughts and except probably on a larger scale because it's the numbers on the uniform.
I forgot we literally just had that conversation of, wow, wasn't that cool when UCF put a photo on the helmets? And little did we know UCF was photos in the numbers, and they're the biggest numbers you've ever seen, and they glow in the dark. Coming soon, that's near you. I
think that's what I'm the most excited for. Well, I don't know, I'm excited for the whole thing, but the fact that this is, I believe it's an 8:00 kick on that Friday night for the space game.
Yep.
The reflective numbers under the lights are just going to be.
Not just those numbers too. So we've got the reflective trim, and then the TV numbers, which you can kind of see here, are full reflective. They're that entire silvery texture. It's the whole number. So those are just going to be they've done those a few different years with these space uniforms. The numbers when they shine like that are so freaking cool. And just to run you through really quickly, and we can talk about a little more, just a couple of the other details in these uniforms. So it's all about hyperspace or hyperspeed and hyperspeed travel. That's the big theme here in the hyperspace center and all that. And because UCF has the center and they're working on that type of technology that would let you go super, super duper fast, which would obviously be huge for space travel if we ever got there. And that's how I love how forward facing these uniforms are too. We've had all the way back from referencing or paying homage to the space shuttle and Apollo. These uniforms, here's what we're going to do in space next. We're going to go really fast and we're going to go all over the place. And some of the other details, as you can see in the helmet decal there, it's that kind of gray sort of checkered texture almost. That is that's emphasizing, or I don't know what the word is, designed off of the carbon composites that are used as heat protection for spacecraft that travel at hyperspeed. I just love this stuff, man. I kind of geek out over it. The helmet stripe down the helmet is something that's known as mock diamonds, and it's basically what happens with high speed combustion with atmospheric pressure. According to UCF, I was Googling some photos of mock diamonds, and it is certain jets and certain rockets, there is this kind of weird diamondy fire pattern that forms that goes from blue to purple. I mean, I was shocked when I was looking at the photos of some rockets that do it. It looks exactly what it looks like on the helmet, that sort of diamond pattern down the middle. And obviously, I want to this is all the hyperspace stuff is really cool. I also want to shout out the giant space U down the pants. I like how UCF has gotten more and more overt as the years have gone by of emphasizing the space U word mark and that's that sort of alternate identity on the uniforms. It wasn't on the uniforms anywhere for the first few years. Then they put it across the chest. Now this is the biggest it's ever been. It is the whole pants. It is literally from the hip all the way down the knee. It's just space U as big as you.
I thought the Polaris stars were big on the new uniforms.
Yeah, this is the year of UCF putting giant designs on their pants, and we're just all for it. And the other little detail I want to call out real quick was where's the photo? Where is it, Bailey? I can't find it.
I don't know. You're in the back end of it.
All right. Well, I lost one of my photos, so I don't know where it went, but it was a photo of the chest emblem, which I guess you can kind of see in this one here. And the chest emblem is based off of Hades, which is a hypersonic wind tunnel that is used for testing all of this hyperspeed type stuff. So the thing I want to emphasize with this again is just, guys, if you're the type of fan that listens to this podcast, you're more a UCF fan than a college football fan, or you don't keep up with uniforms as much. There are alternate uniforms have been in for 15 years now. They're a big thing. A lot of teams do them. And what a lot of teams do will be hey, we took our current uniforms and we made them black. Or we changed the color of the numbers. Or, hey, we found all these different design templates that exist and we threw a bunch of crap on our uniforms. And and then their fans go, oh, those look so cool because they're different. What has always set UCF apart in such a dramatic way is they don't get a uniform and just go, let's throw some cool crap on there and the fans will go crazy. And believe me, 9 years in, I feel like that has to be there a little bit in your brain with the space uniforms. If we can just throw some stars on here, some rocket stuff, people go crazy for it. The fact that 9 years into this, UCF every single year, they find a theme. They find a theme that either has meaning to the larger space program or direct meaning to UCF. And they painstakingly design a uniform where every element on that uniform, look at this uniform, every single part of it is tied into that theme in a meaningful way. And there is nothing on here that is just random space looks cool, so we did it. There is every single part of this. You can go on their Twitter right now or the website and read the breakdown of why they added each of these elements. And not just doing that and adding meaning, but adding it in a way where it all comes together in a cohesive uniform that looks freaking cool. Because now you've got double edge. There's two ways to look at this uniform. One is just it looks awesome and it looks fun and it looks really cool and I can't wait to see it in the field. And two, you can pick out any individual detail and learn more about UCF's ties to space. That is so freaking cool. And I cannot say enough about how impressive it is that year after year UCF pulls this off, that we're almost a decade in.
Mm-hmm.
There still hasn't been a dud. It's something cool and exciting and new and unique every single year. It's so amazing.
Yeah, I mean, their ability to tell a story through a uniform, every component of it is, I don't know. I guess my brain just doesn't really work that way. And like you and I both, are writers. We do storytelling for a living, and even still, like my brain can't reach that level, I don't think. And that's another thing as you're showing some more of these pictures here. Like I'm not surprised that they pulled off yet another good look because they haven't missed yet. But I'm also not surprised that the content team absolutely killed it with the photo shoot, with the release video. I texted you right after I watched the video, and I said, I think that might be like the best release video they've ever done. I loved it. Maybe it was the elements of, like, I was kind of like thinking about Star Wars, but I was like, that was incredible. I want to watch it again. And this picture right here, the back, no, you're good, because even this one, like the background where it's like still kind of that hyperspace, hyperspeed, like, again, I'm just going to keep saying Star Wars, but like the stars, the lights coming at you in that kind of like blurry looking, like you're just inside like a blurry tunnel of stars in the background. I don't know. These pictures are unreal.
The numbers, I don't want to keep harping on the numbers, but Jesus Christ, man, how do you not? Like, it looks like I'm seeing through, it looks like I'm seeing through the uniform. Like, it looks like I'm seeing directly through it. Like, it just is it's so photorealistic. I'm just shocked by it. And yeah, I think it looked like in one of the photos, I think the background, which looks incredible, I think they did this with that big ass video board they have. I think that's how they did this, which is like a really cool way to go about a photo shoot. But yeah, the photo, I mean, the release from the video to the actual photo shoot, I think was my favorite release ever. But I always reserve final judgment until they've been on the field. But like, these really might be my favorites, man. I think I'm obsessed with them.
A part of the release video, and I don't know if you have if they have it in a photo version, but I think it was like kind of the background that we're looking at right now, where it was kind of like zoomed in on Florida. I think. Oh, I didn't. I'm not mistaken. That was very cool.
I know you can kind of see. Yeah, this is just America, so never mind. Yeah. But yeah, I added more photos than this, and it appears I potentially may have hit some sort of streamlined limit because they're not all here now. But it's fine. You've seen them.
The cool thing, and I know you keep saying like we're going to reserve judgment, as we always do for when they're on the field. But I'm so excited that this is a Friday night game. This is the first night space game since 2022. And then, I mean, even outside of 2022, I'm trying to think. I guess it was 2021.
This is going to be the fourth or fifth night game ever, right? Because it was 17, 18, 21, and 22. So this will be the fifth night space game. And 17 obviously wasn't the full jersey or uniform design yet. That was back when it was just a helmet. So it's pretty.
The last two we've had 3:30 kicks, which and both of them with the rain. Where I know, especially the Oklahoma State game carried into the night. Like, it was dark by the time that game ended. But even still, like, I don't know, just with these black uniforms, the blackout, the reflective numbers at night, it's going to be awesome.
It's going to be. And Oklahoma State, the uniforms for that year, those were the all Canaveral blue ones. Those were for day because they were so bright. There you go. Bailey's got it right there. These were made for a night game, man. Like, you just know UCF was like, I don't know, maybe they had some insights into the space game because I know that was announced pretty early. Maybe they had a good feeling that when they were designing these, because I know they're designed pretty far out, that they'd get them for a night game. But one other thing I really wanted to point out about the mock diamonds down the helmet is you can kind of see in this photo, they actually turned to purple in the back. Mm-hmm. That's funny because literally when I was looking at mock diamond photos, that's exactly what happens. It starts in this bright blue and tapers out to purple. It's guys, I literally, if you're listening to this podcast and you're not operating some kind of vehicle, just Google mock diamonds. Like, it's crazy how they captured that on a decal. I'm enamored with these. They're freaking incredible.
You can very, very like lightly see the hint of it in this picture too. The back bumper says the future is fast.
Yep. It says it in Latin, and the first word looked so much like citrus. I thought that it was some kind of citrus.
I did the same thing. I had the same thing. So I was like, oh, citrus. Oh, wait, never mind. I can't. I read it too fast, and my brain
obviously I don't know enough about the exact timeline of when they designed these uniforms to know if Scott Frost had been rehired as the coach when they were finalizing these. I feel like there's a chance of it. And obviously this hyperspace center for UCF had only just opened in October, but Scott Frost returning and the theme of the space uniforms being Space Go Vroom is like so perfect.
Yeah. It's what's cool too is I don't know. Obviously they must have done this. They always release it around this time. Just, they push out the merch, and some of the merch looks so cool too.
I think I might have to go to Alumni Hall tomorrow. There's some hats I really, really need.
It took me until we started the podcast to realize it is October 7th. The space game is November 7th. So we're 1 month out from the space game. So yeah.
Space game, which, I guess I can transition us back. We've had so much fun. Let's talk back about how things are bad. Space game, which is like the very rare must-win space game.
Yeah.
For UCF.
The undefeated streak is on the line. They're 8-0 in the space game. So
I'm already feeling anxiety because I know how you guys work. You people listening, I know how your brains work, and as absolutely out of the park home run phenomenal this uniform is, if it's the first loss, you guys are just going to hate it, and all summer or for years to come, I'd be like, oh, that one sucked. I didn't like the way that the numbers were the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, that's what's going to happen. So
poor UCF though, I guess, like, at least as far as the creative side and the team that puts this together, it's like each of the last 3 years now, they've been losing around the time that they've planned to release these. So immediately, not everybody, but some people are just like, oh, just win the game, I don't care. But it's like
my favorite example of that, which, by the way, if you're listening to this podcast, and I'm sure just mathematically there's some of you in here who are the people who UCF releases a uniform and you reply to it and are like, I don't care what they wear. You need to win a game, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you people exist to ruin my life. Like, I just let us have fun uniforms. Like, what is wrong with you? They could be losing and looking terrible. They could be worse.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm excited. I hope they continue to win in them, and I hope they go into that game. How nice would it be if that game was for bowl eligibility? I don't know that it will be, but
sure won't be. But that would be very cool. If
it'd be nice.
It was. It really could be. I mean, honestly, that would be. I don't know if that would be cool or if that would just be,
Well,
I think really there's no way it could be. I'm looking at the schedule. It basically depends on this weekend, I guess.
It could be.
You think they could win at Baylor?
They could. I'm not saying they will, but they could.
I guess.
Baylor hasn't been what I thought they would be. I don't know. We're not talking about that game yet. But.
I don't understand why Baylor. This is the second time in the last few days you've implied to me that you don't think Baylor's good. They're 4-2, and their only losses are to. I don't care. We're not a Baylor podcast. Whatever. We'll get into that in a few weeks.
They haven't impressed me.
You said I don't remember when, but you made a Baylor comment that rubbed me the wrong way a couple days ago, and I think
it's because they were actively losing to Kansas State when I was talking about this.
Yeah, but then
they beat Kansas State. Yeah, so I have to recalibrate my mind a little bit, but still. All right, yeah, let's turn it back to Kansas, unfortunately, and no longer have fun. We'll talk about sadness.
The mood immediately worsened, but it's fine.
The current state of UCF. So we obviously get our post-game podcast, and again, thank you to those of you who joined us live after the game, and those of you who listened afterwards. But a couple of things to clean up. I think we mentioned it briefly on Saturday night, but Horace Lockett is out for the season with a torn pectoral. I think Scott Frost said it in his post-game press conference. I don't remember if we said exactly what the injury was. That really sucks. He was like becoming my favorite player. Yeah, and had just gotten off to a really, really good start. And I don't know, it just 4 games in to have an injury like that when you're playing some really, really good football is just brutal. So
I do think I think the D-line is probably in a better position than most parts of this roster to absorb an injury like that because they have so many good guys there. Mm-hmm. But it still sucks because, I mean, he was turning into like a bona fide star. I mean, he was having a hell of a start to the season, and he does have eligibility left, which I guess even if he didn't, I think he could have redshirt. This could be a medical redshirt now since it was 4 games, right? But so either way, I'm hopeful we'll see him back for UCF next year.
That's what I'm saying. Now it just turns into me holding my breath that he will be back for 2026 because
I'm trying to not live like that. And the other thing you have to keep in mind is I think this is a little bit of an aside. I could be wrong because when has college football ever worked the way we predicted it would? But I think fans need to recalibrate the portal stuff a little bit because I think it's going to start slowing down a little. There are some changes happening that are meant to kind of contain it a little more. One of those is that they're moving to a single portal window now. What we've done the last few years is we have the portal window in December as soon as the regular season ends. Then we have a second portal window after spring, which is how we get situations like Chase and Johnson being affiliated with 3 schools over 4 months. And they're changing that to 1 window now, and it is in January. So it's going to be after the Bowls. There will be a single window. You get your roster. That's your roster. There's no more guys go through spring ball, then go see what they're worth elsewhere. At that point, you're set. So that'll slow it down. I think there will be less of like secondary movement. Well, there won't be any secondary movement because there's a window to do it. The other thing is this is the first full year of revenue sharing contracts. This is a little different than before. Players do have contracts with schools now. Players in a lot of situations, maybe forfeiting money, or in some cases with some really shady contracts, perhaps even having to give money back to schools if they choose to move. There's still going to be tons of portal movement. That's the name of the game now, but I don't know if it's going to be as haphazard and shocking as it has been the last few years, because there are just more barriers in place now to players moving as freely as they used to.
I'm glad you brought this up now as a bit of an aside, because in a minute we're going to talk about some of these, younger players who will have more eligibility that have been fun to watch so far and showing glimpses of potential for the future. And it was going to have to add in the caveat that you never know about the future, but you just did that. So we'll get to that in a second. The other update we kind of have is that Taven Jackson's X-rays came back negative. So I sent you the Michael Scott thing the other day where it's like in the medicine world, negative means positive. But he's still basically that's good news, but we still don't really know about his availability for Saturday.
I'm trending toward, no insider information here, I'm trending toward he's not going to play, or at least not going to start. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And then Frost also said Cam's healthy, and they think they're going to have Jakari back this week too.
I think if you have one quarterback who's just pretty freaking banged up this point in Taven, and you have another quarterback who, I have to say, we always talk about how we get a little overly, the post-game podcast, it's hard to react rationally to everything because we watch the game and then it's immediately like, okay, broadcast your thoughts to the world. And like, you guys know how it is, you're fans. It's like you're always a little amped up one way or another after a game. On the rewatch, Cam wasn't as bad as I felt like he was. I think I said in our post-game podcast, they can't do anything if he's the quarterback. I don't agree with that. I think that was a pretty dramatic overreaction to just the way that the game ended. So he's clearly healthy. I think if you can give Taven, I don't know, even if Taven's your guy going forward, maybe just give him a little bit more time. I don't know if it's wise, especially when he's coming off a game where he didn't play particularly well and was part of the reason, the pretty hefty reason the offense stalled out in the second half. I don't know. I can see the argument for rolling with Cam this game.
Yeah, no, I can too, and he's so banged up. Like I'm sure he wasn't fully good on Saturday night. Like he had an AC sprain literally 7 days before, and the hit that he took on that fumble was brutal. Like he got lit up,
and it's very frustrating which awareness issue for Taven there. He really should see that hit coming, but at the same time, it's like we've now seen two quarterbacks just get absolutely blown up in part off of these blocks this year. Another pro for Cam that I just want to throw out there. As much as things did not go well in the second half where they didn't score and he was out there, he is a lot better at escaping than Taven is. He's faster. He seems more capable, or maybe a little more willing to sort of do things downfield once he's got the ball in his hands to try to make a play. That's not a knock on Taven, because I also thought there were situations where Cam just was doing that too much, was bailing too early, and there were also some really, really bad reads in there, and I'm hoping that's something that they can work on, and that's just a product of him being thrown out there unexpectedly. But given what we now know about the offensive line and its inability to play well, I do wonder if it's an advantage to have a quarterback who's faster and doesn't come with the Jakari baggage of can't throw the ball. I don't think Cam's like an expert passer, but I think he does it a lot better than Jakari does.
And the thing that will scare you, though, I think about Cam is that he did have that Timmy McClain type moment where he was probably like 35 yards behind the line of scrimmage avoiding, and he got the throw off, but that was scary watching it the entire time.
He almost fell over 3 times while doing that.
I know.
It was not an ideal play. But,
it wasn't.
But I do think you're seeing Taven's obviously banged up, partially just because, that's what happens as a quarterback, partially because of some mistakes by the O-line. But I do think that it's just, there's a couple things with him where I'm not trying to just be like, I slept on it for 2 nights and now I think Taven shouldn't start. But it's just as the season plays out, there have been some awareness issues with him. There have been more than a few times where he's just not feeling the pressure. And 2, he's not, I don't think it's fair to call him a full-on mobile quarterback. He's not a statue, but he's not a natural escape artist in those situations. And I just feel like as the offensive line problems are clarified, I just wonder how much that's going to cost them down the stretch. And if Cam can throw the ball to a similar degree that Taven can, I don't know. I guess I'm just saying that if they do want to rest Taven this week because he's still pretty injured and we see what you get from Cam, I don't hate the concept of seeing what happens, I guess is where I'm at.
Yeah, and it's kind of on the topic of quarterbacks. Frost seemed, and I texted this to you yesterday, he seemed pretty frustrated that he just doesn't have a quarterback, because he was kind of asked about the revolving door at quarterback during the season so far, and he was like, well, it really goes all the way back to spring and throughout practice, where no one really separated themselves. So we've kind of been rotating these guys, forever. And it just seems like that's going to continue for the rest of the season. So that's frustrating.
It's pretty, I mean, I said to you earlier, I feel like we're pretty more or less living the worst case scenario of how this could have played out. I mean, we're coming up on halfway through the season and there's just not any semblance of a clear, I mean, I feel like the only thing we've established is it probably shouldn't be Jakari. And that's like the one guy that a lot of the fan base was rooting for. So just things are, and it's mostly been injuries. Like in a perfect world where Taven's healthy, I think it's pretty indisputably Taven. I don't think it's been like a giant controversy. It's just the injuries have forced it into the seesaw situation. We're all waiting on Kane Archer. We're all just waiting on Kane Archer. Yeah. Got to get him in. Got to hold on to Kane Archer. Guys, I'm living and dying every day on the hope that Kane Archer gets in. We'll say good sign. Kane Archer liked my tweet about the numbers looking cool. So he's closely monitoring the space game situation. So
he's got to be here for the 10th space game.
Which not to turn this into a Kane Archer discussion. Really quickly, if you don't know who we're talking about, then this must be one of your first episodes because I feel like he's already become my new Mikey Keene. But Kane Archer is one of UCF's 2 high school quarterback commits in this upcoming class. He is incredible. He is vastly underrated by the recruiting services, and he is from Arkansas. His dad recently said publicly that Arkansas has not contacted him in a year and a half, which is insane. That's actually it's a pain point with Arkansas fans. Arkansas fans don't understand and still don't understand why the staff is going after him. Right now, Arkansas has fired Sam Pittman, and Bobby Petrino is the acting head coach of Arkansas and is also auditioning for the job. I am rooting for Arkansas every game because if Bobby Petrino, who is part of the current staff and running the offense, were to get the job, then obviously nothing would change there with Kane Archer. I am so deeply worried that if they hire someone else come November or come December when they make that hire, whether it's Rhett Lashley, whoever, their first call is going to be, here's an easy way to splash with the fan base. Let's call up the local star who's a quarterback that everyone likes and fans think has a high ceiling. Even if you don't you're not completely sold on him as the coach, it's just such an easy win. And maybe at that point, Kane Archer goes, hey, UCF, I'm loyal to them. He clearly has a very good relationship with Milton Frost. He's talked about that publicly. Or you go, hey, I'm a local kid from Arkansas and Arkansas wants me. I think I'll go play there. So basically what I'm saying is every Saturday you're rooting for 2 teams now. You're rooting for UCF and you're rooting for Bobby Petrino's Razorbacks. So, yeah.
That's a tough spot to be in. You don't really want to have to be able to, like UCF's going to probably let you down enough, but Bobby Petrino's Razorbacks are probably, you're just adding more disappointment to your Saturdays.
This is also like I'm somehow now half a decade into rooting for Arkansas because we used to be worried that if they fired Pittman, they'd take Gus. And which then by last year it was more like, do you want him? Yeah, feel free. More UCF connections. Arkansas also fired Travis Williams last week.
Yeah.
I remember him, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Not unfortunate. Just I liked him a lot when he was here. And that's gone that way.
Andrew Harris go there to follow?
Andrew Harris did go there. I don't think he's been playing there at all, but he's on the roster. So did Caden Kittler also went there.
A lot of weird.
And he's been starting for
It's a lot of weird ties there. I don't know about that.
UCF and Arkansas, 2 schools that you just you just know there's going to be connection.
Other thing here to get to from UCF Kansas, Scott Frost talked about the his thought process on the goal line sequence, which I think was the biggest talking point, obviously coming out of Saturday's game. I kind of saw where his head was at because he did he said, yeah, I had some plays down there that were a little bit, more creative, and I should have been more creative down there. And I agree with that. I even said, why not run something with, Dwayne Thomas get the ball to Jaden Nixon. I don't think, he's your bigger back, and you can give the ball to him. Do something other than just run behind your bad offensive line. Saying all that, I don't really blame. I still think, as a head coach, you should be able to trust your offensive line to get enough of a push to get you a half a yard. I get what he's saying, and I agree that, maybe 3 times in a row and they did obviously vary up the plays. It wasn't just, they did. I mean, they tried to sneak on 2nd down. They tried to get the ball to Miles on 3rd down, and then they ran the kind of the little option, whatever, with Fancher. And none of them worked, but I would have liked to see something else. Same time, the offensive line just has to get the job done there.
I really, aside, before I even say my take on it, I just want to say that I hope fans really, and I really appreciate Frost's candor on that and his transparency of being willing to talk about a sequence that was the low point of the season and him willing to just very earnestly and openly discuss what his thought process was. And not making excuses or arguing, just saying, here's where my head was at. And this is coming in a time where we're setting a record for coaches saying stupid things this year. So many college football coaches have just been preaching I don't know what is going on. I don't know if it's like the pressure of rev share and NIL. Right? Sarkisian just declared that Texas couldn't be expected. He was like, and no school could go win in the Swamp or at Ohio, Ohio State Stadium. And everyone's like, USF just won in the Swamp like 2 weeks ago. But yeah, Texas can't. So I really do appreciate that from him. I thought I don't know what's changed with him where he wasn't like this. At the first time I was at UCF, I think it's just probably he's in a different, point in his life at this point, different point in his career. I really did appreciate him walking fans through that. I thought that was really transparency is always better. It's always better than not doing it. But all that being said, I still kind of in a different spot from you in a little bit where like, I don't know. I'm in the camp of, even with this O-line, I never would have fathomed that they couldn't push for 1 yard. And I also think if Frost had done the opposite, if they'd tried all kinds of crazy stuff and done some different things and it didn't work, we would be sitting here on this podcast going, why wouldn't they just run the ball up the middle? Like, come on, it's 1 yard. Like you as a coach, you have to expect your offensive line to be able to pick up a yard really against anybody. It's a yard. So it's just an unfortunate situation. And I really don't hold any ill will or even really blame on Frost for how it played out. I also thought what he said made sense about how his first instinct was just to line up real quick and just push it in. And then he wisely thought about, oh, we'll hold on the clock here. We don't want to give Kansas too much time. Like it all made sense. It was just a pretty significant failing of the personnel on the field, which is unfortunate. It's going to happen sometimes.
Yeah. And I don't say that to mean like, oh, on 2nd and goal from the 1, he should have run a reverse or something like that. Like, no, I'm thinking even more probably on 4th down. Like after you don't get in with the sneak and after Miles doesn't get in, then I'm like, okay, well, very clearly your offensive line's not going to get it done. Yeah. I don't know why you don't use Jaden in that situation either. I don't know.
I wonder if he likes Miles' vision a little better in that situation. I don't know.
Yeah.
At least for the first one.
It's such a failure on the offensive line because my first instinct to reply to that is you shouldn't need vision at the half-yard line. Like you should be able to just push forward behind your big ass offensive lineman and get in the end zone. And
really not even just the O-line, because I think the 4th down play, wasn't it? Was it Max Drag? Whoever the tight end was had a missed block that could have sealed that. So it was just they're hitting the limit of their personnel, guys. It's like there's two sides to college football. You know this. There's coaching and everything that goes into that, and there's just the guys you have on the field. And the fact of the matter is that UCF just on offense, they don't have a lot of playmakers right now, and that just kind of is what it is. Yeah, I don't want to say that because that sounds rough, but it's like the offense just isn't that good this year. Like it just is what it is.
It is the truth. We got to be truth tellers. The good thing I would actually kind of going back against that a little bit is not that these guys have been like stars or anything, but just a couple bright spots that I wanted to point out. And this is what I was referencing earlier when we were talking about hopefully guys that can still be here next year and will be part of the building blocks. But on offense, Waden Charles has, I think the majority of the season, been pretty solid, like just here and there, making an impression. In this game, I think because of injuries, Carl Jenkins Jr. had to step in, and he had 2 catches. One of them was like a 17-yarder, I think. Even like they said his name in the stadium, I was like, oh, Carl Jenkins is on the field. Like
he's actually been playing a decent bit. He hasn't always been targeted, but he's been getting out there pretty regularly.
Lewis Carter at linebacker, I know we've talked about him, plenty, I think, throughout the season, and he's been pretty good. And I thought for some reason that he was done after this year, but he's a junior.
No, he's young. Yeah.
And then guys, obviously we've talked about forever now, Sincere Edwards and John Walker up front. Like, what we've seen from them, especially John Walker, like I think I don't know if we've really said anything one way or the other, but he's been being like double and triple teamed. And that is just, that kind of stuff doesn't show up on the stat sheet, obviously, and he doesn't get the big sacks or the tackles for loss sometimes, but it's because he is eating up 2 or 3 guys on the offensive line. And
his sheer presence on the field is making a notable difference. And I worried about this when they got whatever. I don't know. I don't want to like get out on the fans, but I've been surprised by some negative comments towards him from the fans. Like, where is he? And it's like he's doing his job. He's being someone that they have to heavily account for on every single play he's on the field.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just like that collection of players, and there's more, but like it would be nice. And that's what we've said and had to be a little bit cautious about it because of the state of college football and the transfer portal and stuff. But it's like, out of this season, yes, we'd love to see them make a bowl. We'd love to see them be better than they were last year, but we'd also love to move forward into 2026 with some pieces in place to kind of build around. And, I think they have that right now. And obviously, it's Frost's big thing all offseason was player retention and being able to spend their money there. And if that's what they're going to do, and they've got some candidates for it. So, yeah, I've been pleased with the fact that there is some talent around here. It's just not not enough to be very, very good this year. But like we just said, they're reaching the ceiling of some of where their talent is, but also we've seen glimpses of some of these other guys that can be really, really good.
While we're here, the NCAA has just officially passed the new transfer portal window rules. So it'll be January, one single window, January 2nd to January 16th will be the portal window. Going forward, that will be so much more convenient than A, doing it before bowls, and B, having another one after spring, which just never made any semblance of sense to coach guys up through spring and have them learn your system and then have them leave. The other thing I want to say about, because I think the most exciting thing about the season so far, where it's a lot of things for fans to be upset about, I get it, they're 3-2, whatever, is to your point in this conversation we just had, there are a lot of guys who are pieces who it's not just like when Gus would mine the portal and it would be a bunch of super seniors who come in and do their thing and then you forget about them a year later. I could name you 50 guys who fall in that category from the Gus era. This has been a lot of guys, both high school guys and portal guys, who can come back next year. And UCF's high school recruiting class, got a level team. Not ranked well. It is 15th of 16 teams in the Big 12. The only team ranked below it is Oklahoma State, who currently is more dumpster fire than program. They have pieces they like in that class. They have a quarterback who could be the next Mackenzie Milton in that class. It's not a nightmare of a class, but the whole pitch, the whole concept that Frost has been rolling with was that they're not going to put a bunch of money into the high school class the way that Gus and his staff were, because they want that money so when the portal window comes, they can retain the guys they have who they want next year. So we're going to learn in a big way in January if that strategy works. But the idea is that when that portal window comes, all these guys were talking about, because UCF didn't spend heavy on a bunch of blue chip prospects, they're going to have the money to try to keep those guys. So that doesn't mean they're not going to lose anybody. That's not the way this works. But we're hopeful that you're not going to see the same exodus that we were seeing every offseason under Gus, because they're going to have the funds to keep them in place. That's the theoretical concept of what's supposed to happen this January.
And last thing before we move on to the Cincinnati preview, but I just kind of starting to think about this and put some pieces together. Here's my vision that I would love to see. And obviously this is putting a lot on, whether it's Kane Archer, Dante Carr is the other one in the class, but it's a lot to put on a freshman quarterback. But going to next year, say Kane Archer is the guy from day one. You got Kane Archer. You've got presumably Stacey Gage still in the running back room. You've got Tavion Swint, who we haven't seen yet, obviously, because he has the injury, but it's supposed to be really, really good running back. If you can keep Wade and Charles, Carl Jenkins, those guys, if you can get Tyron Wortham, their number one target, it was committed to them, then committed to Michigan State, and now just decommitted from Michigan State. If they can get him on board, you've got 3 really good young receivers. You've got 2 pretty good young running backs, or really good young running backs, and a quarterback you can build around.
Then it comes down to the offensive line. Too, by the way.
What's that?
Dwayne Thomas, too.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
Hard to keep track of all these receivers they brought in and who's out the door and who's not. But
it is you see the beginnings of a young but potentially potent offense next year that you can really.
Then it comes down to the O-line.
Offensive line is still a problem, and they're trying. But yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's jump into our UCF Cincinnati preview. UCF at 3-2, 0-2 in the Big 12, going on the road to Nippert Stadium to take on Cincinnati, who I kind of thought was going to get ranked, and they didn't. They're 4-1, 2-0 in the Big 12. We will start, of course, with our fact you may not know. Here you go. Cincinnati started playing football 140 years ago and has never won a major bowl game. That's not the real fact. That's not the real fact, because everybody knows that, and I'd like for you all to keep reminding Cincinnati fans of that. For the real facts you may not know, I'm unfortunately I've kind of gotten into a habit of just inventions and discoveries. I'm on a real inventions and discoveries kick here. There was a University of Cincinnati astronomer who is partly credited or credited fully, depending on where you're reading, for the creation of the Pringles potato chip shape.
Okay.
So you want to hear something before you say anything? I don't know. This guy fascinated me.
Just to clarify, not the chip. The shape that the chip is what he invented.
Let me just read this to you, because this guy's fascinating. Paul Herget is his name, PhD. He gained fame for his ability to calculate the orbits of comets, asteroids, and space vehicles using some of the earliest digital computers. And then it says, it is less known that Herget, at the request of Procter & Gamble, helped design the stackable Pringles potato chip. His calculations earned him a lifetime supply of the snack.
I'm genuinely speechless. This is the first fact you may not know that has left me speechless, that a Cincinnati astronomer invented the shape of the Pringle.
Yes.
Okay.
I have another one too, if you like it.
Let me tell you really quickly, and this might be a hot take for some of our listeners. I hate Pringles. I have always hated Pringles.
I like Pringles.
And I'm not saying that because I'm like anti-Cincinnati. I just it's Pringles hate week, everybody. I don't want to see any of you eating a Pringle while we're playing Cincinnati.
While you're on this, because I'm going to tell you all, and I know this might be more difficult to avoid if some of you, depending on your needs, but the first commercially available antihistamine, Benadryl, was another Cincinnati creation. So
that
I don't know.
Good. We can roll with that. Benadryl is good. That's a very good thing. The Pringle, I could have lived. My life changes in no way if this man never figured out how to stack potato chips. Like, just completely fine. Also, here's a follow-up question, Bailey. Why was it so important to Procter & Gamble that their chips be stackable? Every other freaking chip just puts it in a bag. It's objectively more difficult to get a Pringle out of that freaking can than it's just eat a bag of chips. It's objectively harder.
There's a reason for it.
Okay.
I don't remember what it is. I read a lot about Pringles last night. I do know that one of the other guys that was responsible for it, Frederick Bauer, he also worked on the shape and the shape of the can, but he could not get the taste right. He was like, it was not good.
I'd argue they still haven't gotten the taste right, but whatever.
I think that I like Pringles, not this week, but I do like Pringles. Also, that guy, again, not even really related to Cincinnati at all. Other than the fact, I guess Procter & Gamble is like headquartered in Cincinnati, so yes. Sure. But Bauer was so proud of his creation, even though it didn't taste good, that a portion of his cremated ashes are buried in a Pringles can at Arlington Memorial Garden.
Why was I was convinced you were going to say sprinkled them on like chips that went out to I don't know why that's where I thought you were going. That like one day on the manufacturing line, they just like little extra seasoning on the Pringles and it was this guy's ashes.
So the name of we're just keep going on here. The name of the shape is the hyperbolic paraboloid. It solved the problem, which I don't even agree with this part. The idea of it was to solve problems of broken chips and excessive air in traditional bags. The air in traditional bags part, I get. The broken chips, I feel like every time I open a Pringles can, there's broken chips everywhere. So I don't know, somebody's slacking there.
They fail.
But I don't know. Supposedly it was supposed to reduce breakage and optimize space. Anyway, where'd it go
Stay
from
tuned
here?
next year for Cincinnati's Pringle uniforms.
Dude, now I want Pringles, but I can't eat them this week. It's brutal. It's brutal. So obviously the man storyline, what's at stake here for UCF? They're trying to avoid a third straight loss, trying to pick up their first Big 12 win of the season. And it's going to be difficult. This is actually a pretty good Cincinnati team, or a very good Cincinnati team, depending on who you ask. And it seems like they're, last week especially, I know they had a top 15 team in town, but that place was rocking last Saturday. This is a very difficult spot for UCF to be in. And that's why, having a chance to beat Kansas at home the way they did and losing it is all the more frustrating.
And on top of this, the UCF Cincinnati football series, which has been running concurrently since 2014, is being interrupted after this year. So if UCF were to lose this game, which, spoiler alert, I think is the most likely outcome, Cincinnati fans get to brag about 2 straight wins over UCF for a little bit of time here. This is a tough one, man. This is one of the games where in the offseason we circled as when we thought UCF could win, because we'd assumed at this point in the season I thought Satterfield might be close to being out of a job.
Yep.
At this point, that is not what's happened. They've been playing very well. They beat Iowa State. I do want to say, and this is going to be like really just me being a Cincinnati hater, the whole, oh my God, they beat Iowa State. Iowa State's injuries have been taking down Iowa State bit by bit for a few weeks now, and I do think that played a role. But I remember very clearly there was a point, like towards the end of this offseason, do you remember where I read an On3 exclusive article about quarterback salaries? And I saw what Cincinnati was paying Brendan Sorsby, and that he had a top 15 quarterback salary in the country. And I sent that to you, and to paraphrase, I think I said that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And turns out, in hindsight, I see why they paid him. He's been playing very well, and Cincinnati has been a big surprise. Can they maintain that through the course of the season? We'll see. The Big 12's wild, but Yeah, this went from game I hope UCF can win to I think Cincinnati has really put some stuff together and they seem ready to. I'm not saying they're like a Big 12 title contender, but I think they've moved ahead of the tier UCF's in at this point, and I think that's a concern for this weekend in a big way.
Cincinnati's an 11.5-point favorite right now.
Come down a little bit.
Yeah, it has. And I think, and before we get into like the matchups and the offense and defense and stuff, I think, like you just said, the Big 12 is weird and wild. I think my best hope for UCF in this game is that this is that weird, wild Big 12 thing where it's like, it doesn't make sense. So like, while you think, UCF's 0-2 in the conference, they're not playing super well. They don't have a very talented team overall. And Cincinnati's kind of trending upward. They just beat a top 15 team. This might be a spot where they just beat a top 15 team and then they somehow lose to UCF. Like, that's my hope that I'm clinging to.
Which, for the record, like, football team wins game they weren't supposed to and gets a lot of hype and everyone's like, oh, they're going to be good. Then they lose the next week. That's not like an unheard of scenario. That happens all the time.
No.
UCF did to Oklahoma State in 2023. Like, it's not. I don't want to sit here and give off the impression that I think that this isn't like 2021 Cincinnati versus UCF where I'm like, there's not even a hope. Like, this is just hopeless. It's more just, it would be foolish and total just acting like homers on this podcast and say we think UCF's going to win or could be competitive in this game. Based on what we know now, that's not the expectation. But let's talk about some matchups. It's not impossible. It's just going to be a tall ask.
UCF's offense versus Cincinnati's defense. Cincinnati is their 41st in run defense, 118th against the pass. They've got a strong defensive line. Dante Corleone is somebody we even mentioned by name on the postgame podcast on Saturday as somebody who's just going to scare me, every night until this game happens, because I think he's just going to expose this offensive line even more. They very weirdly, like, they're 118th against the pass. They're allowing 262 passing yards per game. They haven't picked off a pass this year. I just jinxed it, but this isn't like the best defense ever. The problem is I don't think UCF's offense is in a spot to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
That's frustrating
That's
part.
what holds me up is like, I think we've pretty much established through multiple games at this point. I think it's become clear. We just have to stop pretending UCF's going to figure out how to run the ball. I just don't think they have the personnel for it. I don't think that's going to get better. Going up against a team that's pretty solid in run defense, I don't see them. Now, there will be, I sent you a chart earlier. UCF like basically leads the nation in explosive run plays, which is hilarious. And actually just makes me wonder how horrific their run stats would look if you drop the explosive plays. I do think Miles and Jaden are both talented enough that like, they'll break free every now and then. Like, they'll make something happen out of nothing, but that's not a game plan. That's just the thing that you hope happens once or twice in a game. Cincinnati not being able to defend the pass very well, I want to read that as, okay, that's UCF's hope, is whether it's Cam or Taven, just, keep the ball in the air, try to hurt them that way. I do wonder how much of the stats are Cincinnati having pass defense issues and the fact that they've played Jalen Daniels and Rocco back. I'm not convinced that those stats are legitimate. We still have a pretty small sample size here, and they played some really good quarterbacks. So I think the defense is just pretty good.
They've allowed 20.8 points per game on the year. But with that said, they've allowed 32 points per game in Big 12 play, obviously playing a good offense in Kansas and another one in Iowa State. I don't know. I don't think I think their offense has been more of a strength, but the fact that they're pretty solid against the run and I don't trust UCF's passing game, it's like I don't like the matchup from that standpoint. And against the run, like, they're allowing 115.8 points per game, or 115 rushing yards per game. I look at the number 115 and I'm like, I could see UCF matching that number.
Yeah.
With like a 55-yard run by Jaden and a 48-yard run by Miles, and then like they outside of those two carries, they're just held to nothing. Like that's where, and like we just mentioned with the explosiveness, like they might find those plays, but it's not consistent enough to put consistent pressure on the defense. Like, it's a defense, not that they're gonna be like, okay, yeah, we're fine allowing these explosive plays, because they can change a game, but I don't know. It's just, you cannot, that's not a strategy. Like you said,
no.
Then we've seen that. Like that's what frustrated me about Kansas too. Is early in that game, like they had, I wouldn't say the explosives like 60-yard runs, but like they had some chunk runs, and I was like, oh, did they figure it out? I even tweeted, I was like, have they figured out the right offensive line alignment, and has that unlocked Miles? Seemed like it had, and then I had to realize that like after the game, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I tweeted that, because the answer is no, and I went back and I tweeted and said no. That's what's frustrating. For a little bit there, I was like, maybe we got like light at the end of the tunnel. No. Then I saw at the end of the night that they couldn't get 1 yard 3 straight times. So I don't know. I just don't expect this offense to be able to do much of anything.
I think if
really anyone.
I think if you had to write out a scenario for how the offense is effective in this game and either leads UCF to a win or plays well enough to win, I think the formula is Cam Fancher plays. Cincinnati doesn't have as much tape on him, and maybe there's some things in there that they don't expect or aren't ready for. He's able to take advantage of some of the situations where the offensive line breaks down in ways Taven hasn't, picks up some yards with his legs, keeps Cincinnati honest that way, and has a good day throwing the ball, and UCF's able to move the ball through the air. That's the recipe to me. The issue is that that requires like 3 different things to go right.
There are a lot of ingredients in that recipe there.
The recipe is your thing. It's like you need some stuff to go your way, and I'm hopeful that can happen, but I don't think it can. I think most likely the offense is once again going to struggle to move the ball, and that's going to be.
They have, like I mentioned, the D-line, and they've got some of them from like some of their linebackers and stuff, but they have 14 sacks as a team, which is like, I think, top 20 or 25 in the country. Their leading tackler and sacker is linebacker Jake Golday. He has 48 tackles, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble. I think this is a better defense than UCF is an offense, and that's just kind of going to be the case for most of the games UCF plays this year. But you hope, and we can get into the defense and stuff here, you hope that the defense keeps them in it enough to where maybe those explosive plays, 1 or 2, here or there, or taking advantage of a short field off a turnover or something like that can let you steal one. Yeah. But, I mean, this Cincinnati offense, like you said, Brendan Sorsby paid him some money, and you sent that to me, and I was like, I don't know, he wasn't that good last year, was he? So far this year, he has completed 65.9% of his passes, 1,257 yards, 12 touchdowns, 1 interception. He also has 291 rushing yards, averaging 6.6 yards per carry, and has 5 rushing touchdowns. So 17 total touchdowns in 5 games for him. So he's been really good. He's I would say, is he the best quarterback that UCF's faced so far? Would you say he's better than Jalen yet, or no?
I'm not going to say he's better than Jalen, but I'm also a big Jalen Daniels guy.
Jalen's had a good year, I guess. So yeah, probably not. But that's an impressive line right there, and it's gonna be difficult for UCF. I was looking at UCF's numbers, and I don't know if you were surprised, and I guess part of it is the schedule they played for the first 3 games, especially, and it's not been as good in Big 12 play, but they're allowing 17.4 points per game, which is top 30 in the country. That's 30.5 in the last 2 weeks, though. 15th in pass defense, which is only 150.8 yards per game. And that kind of surprised me. I don't know why. It just kind of did. I guess Kansas State did do more of their damage on the ground, but I thought Kansas kind of would have eaten into that. But top 15 in pass defense, they're 84th in run defense, 155 yards per game. So
yeah.
That's where UCF is right now, and this Cincinnati offense has not only the Soares view, they have a lot of playmakers.
That's the thing. Like, if they live up to that pass defense stat, which I don't necessarily think they will, because I think Soaresby is pretty freaking good and he's got some good weapons. Cincinnati can hurt you in so many ways. It's a pretty good offense. Like I said, this team just seems freaking good, which is unfortunate, and maybe we'll feel differently as the season plays out because we learn stuff every week. But it's a tall ask for me this weekend to ask the offense to find a way to score against a defense that they're outmatched against, especially with how the offense has been and all the uncertainty in quarterback. And I don't think, like, looking at the stats and looking how they match up, I think the defense will – I'm not expecting Cincinnati to go crazy. I don't think they're going to go out there and score 45 points and pile it on. It's a nightmare. I think the defense will – I think we're probably going to see similar to what we've seen against Kansas State and against Kansas. I think you're going to see the defense – start fairly strong and be able to prevent them from doing some things and allow some points. It's not going to be like a lockdown defense, but keep them from running away with it. And just as the offense sputters and they spend more time on the field, things are going to start to get away from them. That's kind of the game I'm imagining here. Now, flip side of that is all the Cam Fancher stuff I said. And also this defense just is able to stop Sorsby from having the kind of days he's been having. They live up to their pass defense stats. D-line pesters him, and who knows, maybe UCF stays in this, but that's a tall ask.
That's the problem. It is a tall ask because the D-line needs to pester him. He's been sacked 1 time this year.
Yeah.
That's that's a far cry from what UCF's offensive line has done. I know their pass protection's been better than their run blocking, but still, like one sack over 5 weeks of the season, 5 weeks of the season. I don't know. It's going to be difficult.
Does that encourage you in a way?
Why?
I don't know, the concept that, like, if UCF can get to them.
Yeah, but I don't think it's like.
But like the
any
idea that
guarantee
could
they
kind of be
will.
uncharted territory a little bit, like maybe Cincinnati doesn't know,
Yeah,
how to deal with that. I don't know.
I think so. The only thing that I guess I haven't watched enough Cincinnati to know, but he has almost 300 rushing yards, so I don't know how much of that is him avoiding or how much it's designed runs, but.
No, he unfortunately is very good at getting away from pressure. But I do wonder if that now I'm adding another thing to my recipe from my increasingly confusing ingredient list of how UCF can win this game is if UCF can pester Sorsby and can get to him a couple times. That's not a situation that Cincinnati's had to deal with this year. And maybe that leads to some things breaking down. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or maybe UCF just loses and that's the game. Hard to say.
I don't feel good about it. Any other final thoughts before we get our score predictions?
Yeah, I hate losing to Cincinnati, and this is going to suck, and it's going to extra suck that I'm going to be in my freaking 30s before UCF has a chance to pay back the favor if they do lose this game. So it's going to be fairly annoying, but hey, at least it's a noon game. So
that's what I was going to say.
If it is bad, we get out of the way early. And I do have one other thing to say, just real quick on the flip side of this is if UCF does win, if they find a way to win, whatever, we overrated Cincinnati, there's a billion ways they could win. I don't think they're not playing Ohio State. Like they could win the game. That is so freaking funny. If Cincinnati's having their like, oh my God, we're finally back. Yay, we have this big win. And then it's UCF of all teams that just shows up to Nippert and is like, ha ha, wrong. That would be so enjoyable and so fun. Yeah. I'm going to hold on to that for a few more days here.
UCF's not playing Ohio State, but there will be a lot of Ohio State gear on campus on Saturday. Something we learned when we went to Cincinnati in 2023.
I'm a Cincinnati hater. You all know that about me. I find their fan base repulsive. I try to hype up any Big 12 team where I can. When we went to Cincinnati, I was stunned by how much Ohio State merch was on the campus. You don't see that at UCF. You'll see a stray shirt here and there, much less so in recent years. That was crazy. It was like that was crazy.
It's especially more rare on game days now than anything, I think.
I bet there's nothing better for a Cincinnati fan than when Cincy kicks at noon and Ohio State kicks at 8, so they can make both.
Actually, they're both playing at noon today, or on Saturday. So
watch no one be at the game.
I don't know. They might have to go. They might have to stay home and watch, or they'll just be really quiet because they got to watch Ohio State, Illinois on their phones.
They're cheering at weird times. It's like UCF is just like second down, and it's like, oh, Ohio State scored. That's why they're all happy.
Yeah. All right. Score prediction:
34-21 Cincinnati.
I have Cincinnati 27, UCF 16.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Just thought of that like 5 minutes ago. I don't know. It's weird. We've been putting these research into these game previews, and the one thing I consistently forget on a weekly basis until we're starting the game preview segment is that I have not thought of a score prediction.
Score predictions are stupid as hell to do in general. It's like you can have a general sense of the way a game's going to go, but like it's a game of inches and it's a game of random bounces. The concept that I'm going to be like, yeah, okay, on the first drive, UCF will be stopped and they'll punt. That'll set Cincinnati. It's like, no, score predictions are dumb. It's just people like them, so we throw them in there.
I always do it. Like I always do come in knowing if I'm going to pick UCF to win or lose typically, but the numbers, I'm just like, oh yeah, I need to get some numbers in my head here. So there was that. All right. Jump into football news real quick. Couple things. UCF and the NFL update. RJ Harvey had 4 carries for 12 yards and 3 catches for 18 yards as the Broncos beat the Eagles 21-17. And Matt Prater was 2 of 2 on field goals and 2 of 2 on PATs in the Bills' 23-20 loss to the Patriots on Sunday Night Football. And then the other piece of news, UCF West Virginia next Saturday will kick off. It's the homecoming game. Kick off at 1:00 p.m. on TNT. That's a weird kickoff time, I gotta say.
But yeah, is that a TNT related thing to have a 1 p.m. kick?
Gotta be, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like I see that. I guess we did this past Saturday. Wasn't there a game that started like 1:00? It was Virginia Tech and Wake Forest, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The game started at 1:00? Yeah.
Which as a football viewer, I like it because then when everything goes to halftime, I have a game to watch. So, but kind of weird kick time.
That is definitely weird. All right, game of the week, UCF women's soccer. They are 8-2-2. They're 2-1-2 in the Big 12. They're also in Cincinnati this weekend. They'll play on Sunday at noon. Cincinnati is 3-5-5, 1-3-1 in the Big 12. So UCF will look to continue, hopefully rising up the Big 12 standings and making a case for the NCAA tournament, which will come up quicker than you think. Because soccer always ends in like early November, and I'm like, wait, the season's already over?
Catches me off guard every year.
Yeah, the fact they've played 12 games already, even that was like, that's kind of crazy. So we will not be doing tweet of the week. We've got math problem of the week.
Math problem of the week. We had so much fun with the Pythagorean theorem. We thought, why not do some math on this podcast? Just kidding. You and I are not going to be doing any math. I did the math in advance.
You scared me with that.
I texted Bailey, I'm going to do math problem of the week, and he thought that meant I was going to ask him a math question, and the stress was palpable. No, this is something a little different, and I may go a little longer than I usually do, but I just really wanted to talk about this. We have a rule we've stuck to pretty well over the years that we don't really touch message board stuff on the podcast. That's for a couple of reasons. One, there's just a lot going on there. B, it's kind of like a respect thing to like the folks at Knights 247 and Brandon Hellwig at On 3. That stuff is paywalled. It's good content. You should pay for it if you want it. I don't think it's our place to take things behind that paywall and make them public. That's just not something I like to do. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make a small exception this week because this was a thread in the dungeon that got really big and I wanted to talk about it. Brandon Hellwig posted in the dungeon that Mark Daniels, I'm assuming on his radio show or something, said that Kansas spent 3 times more than UCF on its roster this year. And that led to just exactly, if you're hearing that for the first time, you're probably reacting the way everyone in the dungeon did. Just led to, oh my God, we're so poor, we're so broke. How did Kansas spend 3 times more than us? I want to run through the math on this, and I want to be clear that I'm not implying that like Mark Daniels like lied or said anything, whatever. We're seeing an increasing trend in college football where team loses game and AD or coach or whoever goes and says, well, it's because this team spent way more than us. And what then comes out after, whether it was Mike Gundy doing it or whoever, is like, well, no, that's not true. And I just want to talk about some numbers because I feel like fans are getting a little confused on UCF's financial situation where it stacks up in college football. So let's go with the premise that Kansas spent 3 times what UCF spent on its football roster this year. UCF has publicly announced multiple times, made clear that they are fully participating in revenue sharing. This is the first year of revenue sharing. That means that UCF, they've put this number out there, is participating up to the full amount of $20.5 million. That's how much every athletic department is allowed to participate in revenue share. Now, obviously, that doesn't all go straight to football. It also all doesn't go straight to player salaries. UCF said that I think they said they were going to spend up to $5 million of that amount on increasing scholarship totals and things like that. Like baseball teams have more scholarships this year. Football, like stuff like that, has changed a little bit. So of that $20.5 million, most schools, virtually all Power 4 schools, were going to spend somewhere between like 70 to 75% of that total on their football roster. Ross Dellinger reported that pretty much every P4 team was going to allocate $13 million to $16 million to football. Pete Nakos at On 3 reported pretty much the same thing. Let's assume that UCF spent way on the low end of that. Let's say that for some reason, I don't know, they thought softball needed more money, whatever. They went all the way down to like 11 million. They're not even at the 13 million that everyone's paying. Let's even go down to 10 million. Let's say UCF only spent 10 million of their rev share on football, which, like I said, that would be interesting if it was that low. For Kansas to have spent 3 times, that would mean that Kansas spent $30 million on it.
That math I can do.
10 times 3?
Yeah.
Bailey, I swear to God, did it on my calculator just now.
Oh my, there's no way.
Anyway, so that would mean, and like I said, I'm pretty sure UCF spent more than that, but let's go all the way down to 10 million. That means Kansas spent $30 million if they spent 3 times what UCF spent. There's a math problem there. And that problem is that would make Kansas one of the 2 or 3 highest spending teams in all of college football. Guys, if you don't follow this stuff as rapidly as I do, it's not all cloak and dagger like it used to be. We have the official numbers for a lot of college football programs. It has been widely reported that the number 1 payroll in the country is Ohio State, and Ohio State spent $35 million on their football team. We know for a fact, because it's been reported by The Athletic, by ESPN, by On3, that only about 15 programs exceeded 20 million this year. Alabama is believed to be right on the line of 20 million. So this notion that Kansas spent 30 plus million on their football team is a mathematical impossibility. So your only options here are that's not true, or UCF inexplicably spent nothing on their football program despite fully participating in revenue share and announcing regularly that they spent the whole 20.5 million on it. So I think that we got to get out of this habit of your team loses a game, and because we're just seeing it so much now, and the excuse is, well, it's because the other team has so much more money than us. UCF may not have Ohio State money. They're not broke. They're not Wake Forest. They're not a G5 team. And honestly, outside of Texas Tech, the belief is that the Big 12 is all kind of similar in how much they're spending. Texas Tech is the one school that's gone way above. Texas Tech spent $28 million this year, which is believed to be like top 5 in the country. So like I said, I'm not calling out anyone for saying anything that was intentionally wrong or whatever. I just think that this is also cloak and dagger, and so many people know like different levels of information that like you just hear stuff and you think one thing's true or you think another thing's true, or just like I just, guys, it's UCF ain't that broke. Like the fan freak out over that of, oh my God, I can't believe that Kansas has triple the money to spend on football. It's like rev share has changed the game. It's not like old NIL 2 or 3 years ago where it was all booster money and you would have discrepancies where like one team spent 10 million and they're playing a team that spent 100,000. Those days are over. That's how Vanderbilt's been competitive. Vanderbilt doesn't have football boosters, but once they were allowed to use their athletics budget for it through rev share, they were able to retain Diego Pavia. Like the era is different now. So just I know things are bad for UCF on the field and we want them to get better. The good news is they're not getting outspent like that. They are by like Ohio State, but they're not by the everyday Big 12 team they run into. So I just wanted to throw that math problem out there because it didn't add up to me. I don't know.
There's a lot of numbers. I'm glad I didn't actually have to do any real math. Yeah. I mean, I don't have anything to add. Obviously, that was all well reasoned and well explained. So, any last parting words for the people?
Yeah, I seriously pulled out my calculator to do 3 times 10. I knew it too. Like I was trying to like maintain the thread of talking as I did it. So then as I'm putting my calculator, I'm like, this is insane that I'm doing this.
I was laughing when you showed it to me because anyone watching on YouTube is going to be able to just screenshot you just showing me a calculator that just says 30. Because I'm trying to think of like in what context is that like a math problem you actually had to do on your calculator
to get the number 30. Yeah, that's dumb.
Yeah. All right, we'll be back on Saturday afternoon. Again, we'll try to go live very, very quickly after the game ends against Cincinnati. The game kicks off at noon, but we'll obviously keep you updated on Twitter as to what time we're going live. Also, if you have your notifications on YouTube on for Sons of UCF's YouTube channel or follow any of the Sons of UCF social channels, you'll see when we go live. So make sure you do that because a lot of people have been joining us lately, and we get some comments during the live shows, and it's a lot of fun. So make sure you tune in on Saturday. Of course, it'll be available afterwards as well if you can't catch us live. But until then, you can find us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at @CA_Simmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. Thank you guys so much for being with us, and we'll talk to you on Saturday.
Bye, everybody.